So this is my critical book review of The Discovers. Overall, I thought it's been a good read so far. It definitely has a very unique approach on world history, which gives a fresh perspective compared to the very conservative American history book we read last year that followed a more standard approach, I guess you could call it. It's really neat learning about different inventions and different parts of history that have changed and helped progress develop over time. But with that said, I think there are 3 things every student should be aware of before reading the book. First off, the author's credentials. Secondly, the somewhat anti-religious bias in his writing. And then third, last but not least, the fact that it's not a modern history textbook. So, first off, students should be aware of the author's credentials. And I'm just going to list some of them off so you can understand what I mean. According to the New Georgia Encyclopedia, Daniel Boorstin, that's the author, moved to Oklahoma at only a year old after his Jewish family faced anti-Semitism. He attended Harvard at age 15 and graduated with highest honors. He was a Rhodes Scholar. He graduated from Oxford with 2 law degrees and from Yale with a law doctorate. He taught at the University of Chicago, Harvard Law, and Swarthmore, according to the Library of Congress. According to Britannica, he joined the Communist Party in the 1930s, later left and became increasingly politically conservative. He directed the National Museum of History and Technology at the Smithsonian and was the Librarian of Congress. And of course, he was a prolific author. So while there's nothing wrong with these credentials, they are credentials of someone who's very secularly successful, who's very involved with more progressive institutions, and as a result, the places where he was and the ideas of these institutions likely influenced his beliefs, which would have, as a result, influenced his book and his writing. So people should just be aware of this as they're reading to know where the author's coming from and where his opinions are coming from. So the second thing that people should be aware of is the somewhat anti-religious bias that Daniel Boorstin has in his writing. Now, he doesn't explicitly say Christianity is bad, but in times he will talk about how Christianity has negatively influenced progress. For example, he says the Bible, or medieval Christians didn't see the Bible as being comparable with science, and as a result, they failed to progressively urge for continued ingenuity and exploring lands. However, he fails in to bring opposing arguments, such as how Christians have many times helped progress. Many scientists and mathematicians who are very famous, influential people have been Christians and have helped progress. And non-Christians have also hurt progress as well. So while it's not wrong for him to talk about how Christianity or religions have hurt exploration in the world, it's important for authors to give multiple perspectives and talk about how there are positive influences and negative influences, and the book somewhat fails to do that. So people should just be aware of that. The third and final thing students should be aware of is that The Discoverers fails to cover more modern history. It only goes up, I believe, about through the Enlightenment time. I know we've only read the first half of the book, but just looking at the back half, that's what it appears. And there's tons of things that have happened since then. You have the modern world wars, you have the COVID pandemic, you have the space exploration. There's tons of inventions like the car, the plane, that have radically changed our society, and he fails to mention all of this. And when you're learning world history, it's important that you not only get a more ancient and medieval perspective, but you also get a more modern perspective to help you be able to apply this to your life. Definitely when I was reading the book or preparing to read the book, I was expecting a little bit more of a modern lens as well, along with, of course, older world history, and of course it doesn't provide this. So students who are looking for that more modern approach should probably have a companion guide to go with this, or use a different textbook entirely. If I were to rewrite the book, or if I were to edit it, I would add a section with technology in there at the end, so that you could have just that one more lens which applies to modern society today. So in conclusion, though this history book has a really unique perspective and approach, which I definitely appreciate and will probably never get to see again, definitely is informative. I think it's important that students be aware of the author's credentials, of the bias that he might be writing the book with, and of the fact that it fails to cover modern history. So with this, and being aware of these things, students can approach the book objectively. So yes, this concludes my presentation. Thank you.